And we're recording now. Okay, great. Okay, hi everybody. It's Wednesday webcast one. Welcome. There may be a few more people who are going to join us, of course, as things go along. But we're going to make this somewhat short today. It's sort of the burden is on those who are able to participate, in the sense that we really wanted to provide a platform for you to be able to ask a few questions or get more details about what I sent out. Now, I sent it out yesterday, so hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. Then you fell asleep reading the Cal State S4 executive summary, and it's a riveting document. I'm sure it kept you awake all night. Actually, I'm going to go over 4 things, as Brianna pointed out earlier today, as 4 topics, and then what I'm going to do is turn this over to Judy if she has anything she would like to say. And then after that, really turn it over to all of you if you have any questions, comments, or discussion items that you would like to bring up. In general, if you have something, it's great to just throw it over there into the chat so that Brianna can kind of can kind of jump around, and if there are more than one questions, we can ask folks. And you can either put the question in the chat box, or we can have you speak up and we'll unmute you. Generally, we just keep everyone muted just so that the sound is a little bit better. So the 4 things I want to go over. Thing number 1, the goal of this particular document, the executive summary. It's a little bit twofold. One is we use it in some ways as just a nice overview, to a short, succinct as possible visionary overview, so you can get an idea of, number 1, where we've come from, as users, where we've come from and kind of where we're thinking we're going. And so that's for the consortium or for other folks on your campus. And then the second part of the document is really to be, on some level, a prospectus document that we can give to others to share with them, just as a nice overview of where we are with this particular project. So it's kind of functioning dually. And so what I mean by that is sometimes Judy will share that out so that folks who are not as familiar with the project will know about it. But I would also encourage you, if you would like, to use it as a document to help if on your campus you need to share that with, for example, the folks who are funding S4. I distribute it to the list of contacts that I have for my contacts on campus. But it can be made available a little wider, and also you sharing the document out is probably putting it into the appropriate hands. I would encourage you to do so. I just wanted to make it clear kind of what the point of the document is. 2, you'll also notice, and what we're working on in conjunction with the executive summary, is the pricing guide that we kind of we're going to be generating every year. That's not yet done. That's that's Judy's office will be doing that. And just consider the fact that, in terms of the cycle, the reason that these documents come out when they do is because the budget is set and discussed in July. We get a handle on fall, and we're working on that stuff. And it's really not until we give ourselves this time in order to reflect on what makes sense in terms of the pricing guide. Now, Judy might make mention of that, and if you have questions specifically about pricing, we can discuss that to a certain extent. But that is sort of a complementary document, but it's independent of this executive summary. 3, okay, so 3 and 4. Okay, 3 is, I wrote this down, I'm looking over my thing, is just a recognition of the accomplishment. So it's very easy for us to, but this and this and this, and we have a list longer than long. But I do want to recognize, when I think about what we've accomplished, and I was sitting in a meeting today and continue to just be incredibly amazed at what we have accomplished. So, and I want to just throw that out there to the campuses as well as to Brianna as a developer. I mean, I don't know of any other system that has the unique requirements of the CSU, things like executive orders and the need to manage risk. And I know of no other systems that have managed to put something together in such a way as to be responsive to the end users in the way that we have. So I guess I just want to it's very easy to be quickly think about all the things that we still have to do on the list, and all, both in our lives as community engagement folks, but also for any software out there. And we've done an incredible job. So of not just on our side of of creating the software, but also on the campus's side of really trying to hone exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish, and being able to work through those processes, and being able to bring in really what turns out to be multiple departments on your campus. And now I know and have seen how difficult it is for siloed departments to work together. So I do want to acknowledge that that is an incredible lift, and that people have done that. And that leads me to number 4, which is, I hope it kind of emerges within the document, the executive summary document, in my realization of the importance of this consortium model that we have. And I had someone edit the document, kind of look over it, who wasn't familiar with the project. And what they said was, wait a minute. Is this a database, or is this a consortium of campuses? Like, what is it S4 exactly? And what I realized was, it's both. And that's what makes it special and unique and different than just some sort of market solution. Yes, it is a database, but really where the power is in this particular project, in my opinion, is that it is a database with the understanding that it's a consortium of campuses really trying to work together to get at best practices, and recognizing and realizing how unusual that is, and how difficult it is to overcome bureaucratic hurdles. You can have the greatest software system in the world, but what we can see is that sometimes bureaucratic hurdles are impossible to overcome, and it has nothing to do with the system, and sometimes vice versa. A system doesn't work even if you have all of the green lights to go through. So I guess it's just the importance and the recognition that not only are we treating this as a database, but really most of you have taken this to the next level, in the sense that people are talking to one another. People are saying, what is that campus doing? People are getting together and saying, how's it working for you? How did you get through your risk management process? And that is something that I find to be invaluable, that no market system would ever really be able to replace. So I guess that's the other piece that I just wanted to share, was in terms of the idea of consortium building, what we're doing is reflective of what community engagement offices are doing, which is building community, for the better good. So I just love that about it. Can't help myself. That's my rah-rah. I can't help it. And now I'll stop rah-rahing. And I will give you all a chance to, again, just that's what I've got. I'll give you a chance, if don't forget, over on the chat. But I also want to just let Judy kind of have two cents, 2 words in, since certainly invited her and appreciate you giving your time to the consortium. Judy can be unmuted. Great.
Giving my time to the consortium. I'm on the fringe or something. So I just want to say that I'm really excited that we are doing these executive summaries, because one, it's beneficial to us internally, but I hope it's beneficial to all of you. Tracy mentioned that, to share it out, but if you feel that it would be best, you can put this in the chat, that it come directly from me to your AVPs or somebody else on the campus, let me know. I know lots of you are being really strategic on how you're sharing information, and kind of conversations that might be happening around S4 involving other departments or programs on campus. And I think it's going to be critical that the academic leaders are aware of, these are the challenges, these are the successes, this is what S4 is about. And it will give that basis for a conversation if they want to have with me. So let me know if you think it's best for you to share it out and have those conversations, or if you think it's best coming from me. And I do want to reiterate with what Tracy said about the consortium approach to this. We were just on a call with a development firm, thinking about ways that we could partner with them, and all of their questions were about what S4 does. And it was pretty clear to me that they wanted to basically know everything that we do so they could copy it and sell it. So it gave me at least more confidence. I already think greatly of this product and what it's doing for the CSU, but it was really great to kind of frustrating to see their tactic, but also great to see that we really do have something special that is responsive to the CSU and what we need. I will wait for questions because I'm sure there are some, but those are my major points.
The other thing I do want to mention, and I want you guys to be able to ask questions. The other thing I want to mention is, because I know we're getting toward the holidays, this will be the last Wednesday webcast until the new year. I also will probably send something out in the new year, which is an evaluation or just like a questionnaire about if this time works for everybody, if it is important to have it be interactive, because we certainly don't want to, want to do this, don't want to waste anyone's time if this is not the right venue. So I just wanted to put that out there too. Because really I tried to make this clear, maybe I didn't make it clear enough, but this one really is for question and answer. So we're going to turn this over to you all, and you're going to have to weigh in, because otherwise we'll be like, all right, everyone's good with it? All right, we're out. So we will, we'll wait for a moment. Great. Okay. Karina's thinking. Good job, Karina. Great. Candace. So Candace, who is at Northridge, question is there an ETA on the next update? And actually, this was brought up, and this is, I think this is a good thing to share now. So we have been, over the last 6 months, we have been we've been updating on a non-regular schedule when we update the software, because we've wanted to and needed to push things up relatively quickly. And when I say push things up, essentially what I mean is that Brianna makes a change to the system, and then we test a bit on dev, and then we push that right up to live. Now, we have been inconsistent in terms of the timing that we do that for needs beyond any one campus. However, one of our goals in the new year in terms of updating the system is that we're going to be on a more regular schedule. And we will be more transparent about what we're pushing. So that will hopefully do two things. One is you will know when the system has been changed, because as I explained in an earlier Zoomcast, the technical one, is that because we rely on there's no way we can test everything. We're too small of a team. So because we rely on the consortium to do some of the testing, we can't possibly know if we broke something aside from something really significant. So then we rely on you. So what we're ultimately going to be doing is pushing new code on Fridays later in the day. That way it won't break, it won't break anything during like midday, but you will know that there's going to probably be a push. So if there is a push, and then we also have the weekend to do a little additional testing. So if there is a push, you will know when to expect that will come through. The second thing that we'll do is we will actually put we're going to update our homepage, which we have not had, which is ancillary to this. We'll put like the schedule of updates, like what we have updated in a basically we'll send that out, or you can check it on a weekly basis and see what it is that we have done or changed. So that will be in the new year, and that will be the update. We are not going to be doing updates that certainly in the first 6 months that are so significant that you would see a really large change. So that's why we're not anticipating having to kind of push on a non-scheduled time, but we will be doing that more on a consistent schedule. In terms of a big update, like if we're talking, how we're version 1.0 to version 2.0, in terms of like going to a version 3.0 where we would do something really, really significant, like in require data export and that kind of thing, we're not going to be doing that anytime soon. Okay. So Karina, I'm thinking we're still really needing an integrated time log. Our students need to be able to enter their hours regularly and see their cumulative hours. Will that be happening soon? And as Judy mentioned, the company that we were like, oh, great, that's a time log we could integrate. And then they were like, wait a minute, so how do you do this? How do you do that? So we realized that we might just, we might not have, what we're doing right now is we're looking at, are there any potential already developed time logs that we can integrate into our system instead of reinventing the wheel? Barring that happening, we will need to be developing that ourselves. And maybe Brianna, I don't know, Brianna, if you want to speak to that at all in terms of your thoughts on online time.
Honestly, I can see it being at least somewhat tested / piloted in spring. I personally, I already have a couple ideas how we could implement it based on recent development we've done, which has kind of cleared some neural pathways and made connections to things. So, yeah, I mean, I would say, we'll be vocal about when we're starting to develop it, but my hope was to start sooner rather than later so that it could be like solid and ready for fall. But I would say spring we can probably do some testing, since it wouldn't be, it probably wouldn't be until like mid-spring, but that would be my hope. And I'm not looking at our priorities list right now, but I'm pretty sure we did put it somewhere on there to at least do some review and consideration of how we could do that. So I'm hopeful.
We would like to, and Karina, especially because you did actually Long Beach used a kind of a program that was external to us for this term. It would be good to find out how that worked, how it didn't work, as we continue to think, okay, what would be the best solution here? I mean, is it even possible to integrate, or does it make more sense to have it we just develop it, as opposed to having like tack on something that is this is a time log, because we don't have a good answer to that yet. And then a couple of people, thank you very much for weighing in, Diane and San Bernardino and Stanislaus, and Wednesday webcasts, and that, yeah, whether 1 o'clock works or doesn't work. I think that the other thing we could check out too, whether it is, it could be something where we do once a week, we do a 1 o'clock, or not once a week, I'm sorry, once a month, 1 o'clock webcast that is really intentionally designed for full participation. And then the other times, maybe once a week, it's something where you can review the video at your leisure, which you obviously can with these as well, but that might be an easier way to go. We like Wednesday. So, what? That's why I call it WoW, so that no one will forget that it's Wednesday at 1. I can't believe you people forget. Do you own a calendar? I forgive you all.
They should be having a calendar. They all just got the CCE calendars.
There we go.
Wow's on.
You know what? Next year, we'll put the wows into the CCE calendar. Brilliant. Oh, that's really sweet too, because Christina at GS says Wednesdays work for her, but I know that you even do it from home sometimes. So thank you. Thank you to those of you who have made this a priority time. I think it is important to keep sometimes things top of mind and to be able to have a platform, especially because we're just all so far apart physically. Okay. Some of you might not have had a chance to review the executive summary. I just want to say that if you haven't had a chance to look through it, and it does bring up questions, of course, this is not the only platform in which you can ask questions. You're welcome to email us, email Judy. Karina is asking, in terms of the timeline on the billing, and Judy, I'll let you speak to that.
I'm putting the final touches. We pretty much know what we're going to bill you for this year. It's not going to be more than $7,000. So we're really trying to keep this year the same. What I'm really working on is the pricing guide that kind of reflects some of the things that you saw in the executive summary about our new method of billing. I was really trying to get this to be concise and consistent this year, but I also want to give in advance a lot of notice to everyone about what the potential funding could be like in the future as we move towards being fully supported by the consortium and less so by the system office. Next year, the intent is that I will be still seeking system-wide funding support, but given some of the budget issues that the system office is having, many of you know, tuition increase is on the table. I cannot promise anything, and so I think the best case scenario is to give the worst case scenario. And hope for the best so that we, can be pleasantly surprised. Some campuses, again, will not pay the $7,000 for various reasons, but the max amount at this point will be that. You will each receive your own outline of what the cost will be, and I will get those out probably that first week of January is my plan.
Yeah, and for us, I do want to say, based on what we have seen when it comes to some campus bureaucratic systems and the level of support for different campuses, we've been very generous in terms of saying, yeah, we'll do this for that campus because we know that they're trying to get over this particular hurdle or that particular hurdle. And especially because this is still, relatively speaking, some of this in terms of implementation and piloting is sort of early on campuses. We will come to a point, though, where from our support perspective, we are going to give support to the campuses who have managed to spend a significant amount of time overcoming those hurdles and now are in some level of implementation that's realistic. Maybe I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
I want to add to that, Tracy, because you made a good point that I forgot to mention. So some of the factors that we're looking into is obviously making sure we have adequate staffing to meet your needs. And in the past, many of you who've been with us from the get-go know S4 was initially given for free for several years, but campuses didn't do any work with it. Then we started to charge a small fee utilizing CCE funds and system-wide funds. Again, we used a model where we allowed campuses who were piloting or new, either we let them come in for free in the beginning and then charge them a nominal. We are no longer going to be able to do that. So campuses or programs who say they want to join S4, that is a commitment. And we are no longer going to, after this year, make concessions for campuses or programs to come on board. I guess at this point I should say programs, since we have about 19 campuses, come on board without their full commitment. So we're going to be pretty, as part of the discovery phase, that communication I have, that Tracy then has with the campuses, it's going to be like, are you really ready? Are you really to commit? All of you have been doing this a long time, so it is a huge commitment to make, but it is the only way to get the software up and running. And if you have purchased a software from another industry partner, you would pay a lot more money. And if you paid that money and did nothing with it, that's on you. So in this case, we're moving towards that model because we really, at this point, have no choice. There might be times when I might make a slight change around that, but you will see that after this year, there's going to be a big change regarding readiness and willingness. And so if a campus is not really ready, we're going to remove, and you can't pay, and we don't feel like that, as after some assessment, we feel like this isn't going to work, then we'll probably just say it's best that you hold off on participating. That will really be the message, and I'm happy to have individual conversations with folks about that if that happens. I don't really see that being the case with anyone fully on this call, on this webinar. But do want to give that heads up.
So
Which
they
is,
were,
go ahead, Brianna.
oh, I was just going to say there's a question from Christina GS, but Karina also asked a question that's a little more related to what you were just talking about. So maybe you want to answer that one first. And she was just asking that they have some additional prospective programs considering coming on board. So will that increase the cost?
So yes, because the model is based on the size of the program. So each program is assessed for their size. Okay, the percentage of all of the users for that program. And then we have everybody pays like a standard 20% basic fee and a basic 20% on basic fee on the SIS integration. Did I miss anything, Tracy?
No, that's essentially it. I mean, it's kind of cool. Between the last 2 years, I think we really kind of started to hone what we're considering the formula, which is taking into account, one, just sort of a base fee for all campuses that's relatively low. And then we did just recognize and realize like larger percentage of users have to pay a larger percentage. So, but it's a percentage of the whole of all of the users. So basically you're going to see that, because what we found was that a large campus doesn't necessarily equal a large program. And we did not want to discount small programs. We wanted to make it as affordable for them, but we also wanted larger programs to be able to pay their share because of the amount of use and the amount of support needed. So it is a percentage, the program part is a percentage, and then there's kind of the flat fee that the entire campus pays for. Yeah, I think we kind of honed it where I consider it to be relatively fair, really.
Yeah, so it will be by program, by program. And one of the things that I think as campuses like yours, Karina, who have discussions about other programs using S4, this is where the opportunity comes back to say, okay, if Academic Affairs at Cal State Long Beach wants to use S4, this is the cost for this many programs, and are we going to split it up evenly? Are we each going to be responsible for our own? Or is this something information technology, risk management, and academic affairs can help cover, right? And so those are things I think that can be discussed and worked out, because oftentimes campuses will purchase a system for multiple programs and they all just get to use it. It doesn't come out of your internal budget. So I can see that happening. Again, based on this, you're going to see probably a huge change on what the cost is based on the percentage of users in S4 and the size of the program. Because as Tracy said, we have some really large campuses, but they might not have large numbers currently using S4, and vice versa. And then others who are, probably would be around the same amount. And again, once that's ready for the 2017-18 year, and again, that's going to be the worst case scenario. I'm going to keep prefacing that because my intent is to fully move forward with our original plan to seek funding for next academic fiscal year. But we should plan for the worst case if the budget doesn't allow for that. And we all obviously have to plan for the 2019, I can't even believe I'm saying that, 2019-2020 academic year, when it looks like we will be phasing out system-wide support. But again, I'm going to continue to advocate if needed, and I'm already beginning those conversations here, looking towards the future. I do think this is a critical product for the CSU, and I will continue to make that case as well. But right now, what my agreement with the system office, with Dr. Blanchard, was that we would be phasing out support after next year. But I'm probably going to, knowing me, I will probably approach them further. But I don't want to get your hopes up.
I'm going to go back to Christina's question, since that's related to the documentation and kind of more consortium. Great question. Would it be possible to have a document that lists campuses by their S4 strengths? For example, who does online contracts successfully, who's gotten faculty, to comply, and I think that's a brilliant idea, actually. And right now, that's just being done in my little head, which is not a great place for it to be. I try and hook campuses up. So I think that is a terrific idea, Christina. And I think that we can move toward that. The last time we had an S4 work day, there was a fantastic discussion about, okay, so what's the best way to, for campuses to share information across one another? What I loved about that discussion was the fact that one person said, oh, listservs. Listservs are the only way to go. I love listservs. And then someone else said, oh, I hate listservs. That's the worst idea. And then someone else said, why don't we have, Google Docs? And then someone else said, I don't even know how to use Google Docs. So we sort of tabled back because we were like, oh. So as soon as we hit on the best way for people to be able to not be overwhelmed by emails, but at the same time, other people who really need that to kind of figure out the best way to share that information. But yeah, in the meantime, right now, that's certainly in my head. I certainly want to get it out. The other thing people have really asked for is a contact list of folks on other campuses who essentially are their counterparts. I think that's a great idea too. But we'll want to get everyone's buy-in and okay on sharing that information, and of course in a secure spot. So that's great. Yeah. And then the other piece is Diane just weighed in from San Bernardino, which Diane, I hope it was okay that we put the picture of your S4 on the top, just of the executive summary, just so that, and Long Beach too, just so everybody knows. Kind of a cool thing that San Bernardino did, which was in an attempt to get a grasp on how many different community partnerships are across their campus, they used a form in S4 to basically, and sent it out to different departments and said, fill this form out for each one of your community partnerships. And they just turned that whole thing we uploaded that then into S4 to create sites for them. It was kind of a great, really all campus effort to kind of get everything that's on campus and start to get a grasp for a single repository for all community partnerships. So I thought that was a good and interesting way to do it. Oh, you're welcome for featuring you. Okay, so one question about about the future inclusion of academic research placements. Would they fall under non-academic internships, since credit is typically not given for these experiences? Judy, you want to weigh in on that a little bit?
They would have their own program name. And so it would be academic research. If I'm understanding the question correctly, Diane, it would just have its own program name, academic research placements or programs.
This does beg the question, or come up the question of what is and what is not considered, quote, an academic internship. So a good example, I think, that might be similar in terms of, wait, is credit offered or is credit not offered? CSUMB, they have capstone projects. They are sort of connected to a course, but they're really a project. However, it is required as part of their graduation. On some level, it is connected to their program. So therefore, it is an academic internship. So I think that there's still a blurry line between what is academic and what is not academic. But certainly one filter that we're using from a risk perspective is, if anywhere on the campus you are advertising this internship through some sort of campus function, saying something about it related to the campus, then you are holding the university liable. So I don't think that conversation is done about where we draw that line and how we draw that line, but that's just something to consider when you're deciding whether or not to include a particular subset of what sometimes is called internships, what sometimes is called all kinds of different things. What should we include it or not?
Yeah, I mean, the definition for risk management is if you're getting academic credit or if it's a requirement for the major. If it's a requirement for the major, even if the student's not getting credit, that is a university responsibility, and so it has to be captured. I took your question more on the like logistics, semantics. And again, we haven't delved too much into undergraduate research opportunities, not for credit, where maybe students are doing it with a faculty member as part of a program. I know, is it UROC, Tracy, that's looking to start? So I think we might start doing that, but this goes back to that conversation we had several weeks ago at one of the WOWs, and also mentioned in the executive summary, which is we're really going to curtail the additional new types of programs that come into S4 until we can make sure that we have the level of support that is needed on the infrastructure side to ensure that you all who are currently in S4 get the level of support that you need.
Yeah, is
UROC, undergraduate research.
Opportunities.
No, it's office. It's UROC.
You know how that happens with acronyms. You start to say them so much that you forget what they actually stand for. If we ever knew. One thing about UROC too, University Research Office of whatever, is that I think right now at this point with CSUMB, what they're doing is UROC placements are being sort of folded into the academic internship program. So they are choosing not to have an independent and separate program, but they're considered, I think, they are, at least for CSUMB's purposes, they are considered academic placements. So some of it is semantics. Some of it is how do you break that down, and how do you want to report on it, and who's going to manage it. Because I think another gray area is just like some community service opportunities that aren't particularly tied to a course or academics, but we know that those have impact in our communities, and we know that sometimes those are managed through community engagement offices. So that ends up being something where, you know, people are kind of playing around with, well, what if we have community service component? It's slightly reduced in terms of it's its own program, but how can we utilize the system to include that? But do keep in mind that if that's getting included as well, we're going to figure that in terms of overall, usage on a campus and then percentage. University Research Opportunity Program. Okay, maybe it's a center in UROC. You might want to think about changing that because UROC is a really cool acronym. Yeah. Okay. It's 1:40. That's good. I feel like we've put some meat on the bones. Yeah. Okay. So again, reminder, feel free, send us any questions. We're going to be not doing Wednesday webcasts for the next 2 weeks, and I will send something out in the new year. And it's lovely to see some of your faces. Even though I know they're not all on here, yes, I understand. We do put these videos and make them available to others, and so I understand the reticence for using one's camera. I'm comfortable with that. However, it's always lovely to see your faces, so feel free to join in. Oh, thanks, Jill. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good week and have happy holidays, of course. Bye.